Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour, South Korean investigators dropped their bid to arrest impeached President Yoon after a 6-hour standoff with his security team. First arguments in Yoon's impeachment trial to be held on the 14th of January. The FBI says ISIS-inspired military vet acted alone in the New Orleans terror ramming. The Vegas Cybertruck explosion perpetrator is identified as a highly trained Green Beret soldier who shot himself before the blast. North India reels under a shroud of thick fog with zero morning visibility. The Met Department says the cold wave is likely to persist in and around Delhi for the next 2 days. And Indian batters disappoint once again in the 5th and final test against Australia. Captain Rohit Sharma is rested, but the team puts up only 185 runs all out on day 1. First up, a tense standoff in South Korea as authorities attempted to arrest, impeach President Yoon Yeol over his failed martial law declaration only to put it off for the time being. The dramatic events unfolded at his official residence, raising questions about democracy and accountability in the nation.
South Korean investigators have called off their attempt to arrest impeached President Yoon Yeol after a 6-hour standoff at his residence. The confrontation involving Yoon's Presidential Security Service and military personnel ended with authorities citing safety concerns for their withdrawal. The scene outside Yoon's residence was chaotic. About 2,700 police officers and 135 buses formed barricades as hundreds of Yoon's supporters, including far-right activists and evangelical preachers, gathered in protest, chanting slogans like "Illegal warrant is invalid." Inside, investigators faced off with security forces protecting Yoon. Negotiations failed, and the Corruption Investigation Office eventually declared the arrest effectively impossible due to the risk of escalation.
I question whether the issuance of such an illegal warrant aligns with the principles of the rule of law. It is our position that this unlawful arrest warrant request is illegal and invalid. The declaration of martial law is a power granted to the President under the Constitution. The President exercised this authority legitimately as part of their duty to protect the constitutional order of the nation.
Meanwhile, South Korea's Constitutional Court announced it will hold its first arguments in Yoon's impeachment trial on January 14. The President is required to appear in court for the session. A second hearing is scheduled for January 16 in case of non-compliance. Yoon's arrest warrant, valid until Monday, now hangs in limbo. His legal team has also challenged the warrant in the Constitutional Court. While Yoon supporters rallied for his survival, anti-Yoon demonstrators clashed nearby, accusing him of dragging the nation into political chaos. Yoon, suspended from duty following his impeachment by lawmakers, faced his controversial December 3 martial law declaration. If convicted, he could face imprisonment or even the death penalty. Despite ignoring 3 summons for questioning, Yoon remains defiant, vowing to fight authorities. Nancy Baloda's report for DD India.
So, unprecedented circumstances right now in Seoul, in South Korea. Let's try and process them, understand what's really happening, what it means for that nation. Professor Jitendra Uttam joins us from the Center of East Asian Studies at the School of International Studies in Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi. Well, good afternoon to you, Professor. What do you make of what's happening? Because we've heard in the past of human shields during warfare, but here in this case, it seems that a human and a security shield have been used to prevent the arrest of the impeached president.
Yeah, this is, I think, unprecedented for outside viewers. But in Korea, the politics is divided, not from today, but when Korea was divided, there is a massive political polarization in Korea. And that polarization is now expressed in the form of progressives at the one side and the conservatives at the other side. And here you can see that the progressives who are not in the power, they are trying to impeach the president, and I think the Constitutional Court, which has now filled the positions, but it will take time. And the other side is a very powerful conservative lobby. Even the chaebols, the business, big business is supporting them. They are there. So this standoff divides Korea from the middle. That the nation was divided, even the public opinion is divided. When President Yoon he was elected, the margin was very thin that he got elected. So there is a considerable number of people in Korea, they opposed him. So in this background, now when the president's popularity went very low, he was not able to function properly. He understood that he can resort to the old practices that the Park Chung-hee and the others they did before. However, the Korean society has changed a lot, and the civil society in Korea has become very powerful. So he could not succeed in his attempt to impose martial law in Korea, but the bigger problem is that the parliament is controlled by the opposition. So they were to denounce him and impeach him. Then
which is why he's been impeached. But let's also talk about the Constitutional Court process, because right now the Constitutional Court just got 2 additional judges. Earlier only 6 were left when there should be 9. So I guess hearings can now proceed, and the date has also been set as the 14th of January as the first set of arguments that will take place as far as Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment is concerned, and he's required to be there himself physically. Do you think that he will go, because once again he becomes vulnerable to being arrested if this warrant is extended?
Yeah, I think the bigger problem is now the public, because there can be some confrontation in between, because there will be, as in the earlier president's impeachment, the candlelights whistle for a month. So I think the whole night, the demonstrations, they are already planned by the Progressive Party, and this crisis of the Constitutional Court is one. The date given is the 14th January, and from now on till 14th January, what will happen, I think that's very important. And the division among the Korean political elite is complicating the process, because the person who is now in charge, acting president, actually he works on the behest of the conservatives. So he will not fully resolve the issue and try to save the president. And this is the core of the problem, that the conservatives, they want to hang on to power, and the progressives, they are not going to leave. So the earlier president, Park Geun-hye, she was the daughter of the president Park Chung-hee. She has to go to jail. And I think that destiny waits for him as per the progressives. But the conservatives, they see that somehow they can derail this process. They can utilize the divide between not only the public, but among the judges that are in the Constitutional Court.
So what does this mean? What does this mean for Korea's future, the future of not only political stability, but even democracy, considering that if this impeachment is upheld, then elections will have to be called, but it seems that it will all take not just weeks, but could also take months.
Yeah. So this dragging on already has impacted the currency value. Korean won is 9 years low, and I think that's going to impact Korean economy, which is export-oriented economy. However, as Korea looks from the outside, I have been in Korea for a decade, but all these things, they look very disturbing. But Korean system is very resilient, and Korean economic system will not get impacted in a manner that many people they can anticipate. Of course, there is some kind of confusion, something is there, but in Korea, the demonstrations, the political crisis somehow does not impact their economic planning, their economic targets that they have, their exports orders, all these things will go as it is planned.
All right. All right, we'll have to leave it there at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor from JNU. And remember, this is happening in the country when it's also in a state of sort of a mourning, because the South Korea plane crash probe has intensified, as well as investigators on Friday began lifting the wreckage of the Jeju airplane that crashed 5 days ago, killing 179 people. The police conducted a series of raids on Thursday and Friday at the offices of Jeju Air and the Muan airport operator as they stepped up their probe. South Korea has also announced the inspection of all Boeing 737-800 aircraft operated by its carriers, focusing on the landing gear, which appears to have malfunctioned during the Sunday crash. However, the exact cause of the flight's crash is still unknown. Authorities are also analyzing the flight data recorder, with US experts examining the wreckage and reviewing 107 recovered mobile phones for clues. Now let's get you updates from the US. Chaotic New Year's Day, really, where visitors are back on Bourbon Street, the tourist artery of New Orleans, where the deadly New Year's attack took place. The suspect has been identified and is believed to have acted alone. More in this report.
The tourist artery of New Orleans, the Bourbon Street, glimmered back to life less than 36 hours after the deadly New Year's Eve assault. Tourists and youth came out in throngs after the street was declared open by the police.
In New Orleans, this is what we do. We celebrate life during, before, and after. Unfortunately, it's very unfortunate what happened, but this is what we do in the city of New Orleans.
Today feels like a completely normal day back on Bourbon Street. Obviously think about all the victims and the families, but I feel safe. I think it's probably the safest and cleanest Bourbon Street will ever be that I will see, and just still praying for the victims, and I feel safe, and the police presence is huge.
I mean, like I said, I've lived here 62 years, and we've always, we can't let nothing hold us down. Like, I've been here through Katrina and all, so we could get right back up and running.
A US Army veteran with an ISIS flag on his truck swerved around makeshift barriers and plowed into New Orleans' crowded French Quarter on New Year's, killing at least 14 people. The suspect was shot dead at the scene after firing at police. He has been identified as Shamsuddin Jabbar. The suspect had pledged allegiance to ISIS on his social media account on the morning of the attack. FBI is now seeking more information from the public on him. It released a poster featuring surveillance stills as part of its investigation. The search for more accomplices ended effectively as the FBI said that the suspect had acted alone.
This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act. We do not assess at this point that anyone else involved in this attack except for Shamsuddin Jabbar.
US President Joe Biden warned that ISIS shall find no safe harbor there.
People in New Orleans are sending an unmistakable message. They will not let this attack or the attackers with his deluded ideology overcome us. None of us should fear that he'll overcome us. We're going to continue to relentlessly pursue ISIS and other terrorist organizations where they are, and they'll find no safe harbor here. I'll continue to provide updates in New Orleans and Las Vegas as the facts develop.
US President-elect Donald Trump has blamed the situation at the southern border of the recent attacks in New Orleans and Las Vegas, railing against President Biden for his immigration policies as both cases are being investigated. As New Orleans limps back to normal and people have come out in numbers to the Bourbon Street, the memory of those who perished in the senseless act will remain etched in the memory of the people in New Orleans and elsewhere. Antrasina, DD India.
Meanwhile, a U.S. Special Forces soldier who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas shot himself in the head before the blast. U.S. law enforcement officials say his motivation is still unknown. Matthew Livelsberg, a member of the elite Green Berets, took his own life in the rented vehicle filled with fuel containers and fireworks, which then erupted into flames. Livelsberger's body was burnt beyond recognition. Las Vegas police said he'd been identified as the driver of the vehicle and that the coroner had ruled he had died by suicide. Livelsberger, identified through his military ID, passport and credit cards and also tattoos, was found with a gun at his feet. In California, a small plane crashed into a commercial building in southern part on Thursday, killing 2 and injuring several others. Aerial footage of the crash's aftermath showed a plume of smoke rising from an open hole in the building's roof, though firefighters were able to extinguish the blaze at the root of the smoke. According to reports, the crash took place after the plane's pilot requested an emergency landing at Fullerton Municipal Airport shortly after takeoff, according to the Orange County Register, which noted clearance was given to use either side of the runway. Over 100 people were evacuated from the building which the plane had collided with.
The plan is to continue the on-scene investigation tomorrow within the facility, and then have the airplane recovered probably tomorrow evening or late afternoon. And then the investigation will continue at a remote storage facility throughout the weekend. A preliminary report should be on our website, that's ntsb.gov, in about 14 days. And then the final factual report will take about 12 to 18 months to complete.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. French-German foreign ministers visit Damascus, first by EU top diplomats since Assad's fall. Stalled Gaza peace talks in Doha set to resume, with Netanyahu approving the return of Israeli negotiators to the table. And the 82nd edition of the Golden Globes is set to dazzle on Sunday, kicking off the 2025 awards festivities.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, in Montenegro, thousands of people, including political leaders, lit candles in the main square of capital Podgorica on Thursday night to commemorate the victims of a mass shooting that killed 12. A gunman shot dead 12 people in a rampage in a small town before turning his gun on himself early on Thursday. The attacker, named by the police as 45-year-old Ako Martinovic, initially shot dead 4 people at a restaurant in Cetinje on Wednesday afternoon after an altercation. He then shot dead 8 other people, including 2 children, in 4 different locations in this small town. It was the second mass shooting in less than 3 years in the same town, west of Podgorica. In August 2022, a gunman killed 10 people, including 2 children, before being shot dead. Now, the latest as far as the Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned, well, Ukrainian forces have struck deep into Russia's Kursk region, targeting a command post in Marino with precision missiles. The attack comes 5 months after Ukrainian troops crossed the border and have been holding on to pockets of Russian territory despite counterattacks. Russia's military claimed to have intercepted 4 missiles, but the attack still managed to cause widespread damage. Russia also said drones targeted nearby regions, but no casualties were reported. Meanwhile, Ukrainian air defenses claim to have downed 60 out of 93 drones launched by Russia in an overnight attack. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed hope on Thursday that US President-elect Donald Trump could play a pivotal role in ending the Russia-Ukraine conflict. In a televised interview, Zelensky revealed Trump's promise to prioritize Ukraine after his inauguration, praising his decisiveness to counter Vladimir Putin's actions. Zelensky emphasized that Ukraine's independence and security depend on strong US involvement, including NATO aspirations.
Трамп може бути вирішальним. І я думаю, для нас
Trump can be decisive. For us, this is the most important thing. His qualities are indeed there. He can be decisive in this war. He is capable of stopping Putin, or to put it more fairly, help us stop Putin. He is able to do this. Naturally, any security guarantees without the United States are weak security guarantees for Ukraine.
будь-які гарантії безпеки.
The European Union confirmed on Thursday that gas supplies across Europe remain stable except for Moldova. Deliveries of Russian gas to Europe via Ukraine pipelines stopped on Wednesday after Kyiv refused to renew a decades-long arrangement that earned billions of dollars for both the countries. While Russian gas now accounts for less than 10% of the EU's imports, down from over 40% before the Russia-Ukraine conflict, some eastern member states remain reliant on it. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is in Syria for a day visit alongside her French counterpart Jean-Noël Barrot, representing the European Union. The European leaders will meet with Ahmed al-Sharaa, leader of Syria's new rulers. This is the first visit by a top EU diplomat since rebels took control of Damascus on the 8th of December, ending Bashar al-Assad's 13-year rule. Led by Sharaa's Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the new rulers are working to reassure the international community that they'll govern for all Syrians and not promote an Islamist revolution. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has approved the return of Israeli negotiators to Doha for the continuation of Gaza ceasefire talks. The negotiations are currently at standstill, with mediators reporting substantial disagreements over key terms. The deal would have facilitated the release of up to 30 captives held by Hamas in exchange for Palestinian prisoners and increased humanitarian access to the Gaza Strip. Tel Aviv wants a deal that does not include stopping the conflict and withdrawing fully from Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip on Thursday killed the chief of Gaza's police force and his deputy. Israel said the head of Hamas internal security forces in southern Gaza, terrorist Hassan Shawan, was eliminated in an intelligence-based strike at Al-Muwasi, just west of the city of Khan Yunis. IDF said Shawan was responsible for developing intelligence assessments in coordination with elements of Hamas's military wing in attacks on the IDF in Gaza. He added that the Hamas internal security forces have conducted violent interrogations of the Gazan population, violating human rights and suppressing dissent within the organization. And in another update, sirens blared across Jerusalem and Tel Aviv early on Friday after a missile was launched from Yemen. Israeli Air Force intercepted the missile, prompting fears of falling shrapnel. Explosions were heard in both cities following the alarms. Israeli military confirmed shrapnel had fallen in the area of Modin, a central Israeli city. Authorities are assessing the situation to ensure public safety. No injuries or major damage have been reported so far. US President Joe Biden awarded the second highest civilian medal to Liz Cheney and Benny Thompson, leaders of the congressional investigation into Capitol riot. Biden awarded the Presidential Citizens Medal to 20 people in a ceremony in the East Room, including Americans who fought for marriage equality and a pioneer in treating wounded soldiers. Here's a report.
US President Joe Biden on Thursday awarded Liz Cheney, a former Republican congresswoman and fierce critic of Donald Trump, with the Citizen Service Medal after the incoming president warned she could be in a lot of trouble once he takes the office. The ex-lawmaker from Wyoming, along with 19 other prominent figures, was awarded the Presidential Citizens Medal for putting the American people over party. Presidential Citizens Medal is the second highest civilian award granted by the US government. Lawmaker Penny Thompson, who chaired the House committee that investigated Trump's role in the 6th of January Capitol riot, was also one of the recipients. Cheney, the daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney, served as the vice chair of the committee and was given a standing ovation as she came to receive the honor.
For the final time as president, I have the privilege of bestowing the Presidential Citizens Medal, one of our nation's highest honors, on an extraordinary, and I mean an extraordinary, group of Americans. The Citizens Medal recognizes, quote, citizens of the United States of America who performed exemplary deeds of service to their country and to their fellow citizens.
Cheney has become a prominent anti-Trump voice within the Republican Party in recent years. She also campaigned alongside Vice President Kamala Harris, while Trump is set to return to the White House on the 20th of January and has vowed to get revenge on political adversaries. Bureau Report, DD India.
The 82nd edition of the Golden Globes is scheduled to take place on Sunday, kicking off the 2025 awards festivities. Films such as Wicked, The Brutalist and Emilia Perez will be competing for trophies and attention ahead of the Oscars. Deeptanshu Kashyap brings us this report.
The 2025 award season begins on Sunday with the 82nd Annual Golden Globe Awards, honoring the best in film and television. The Netflix film Emilia Perez leads the race with 10 nominations, followed by The Brutalist with 7. The Bear leads television series with 5 nods, followed by Shogun and Only Murders in the Building with 4 each. The nominations were announced on December 9th by actors Morris Chestnut and Mindy Kaling. This year's ceremony will be hosted for the first time by comedian Nikki Glaser.
I'm feeling really good about the job that I have to do, the material I've written, that my team has written. I feel like we're just in good shape. I'm really excited just to show these jokes to a massive audience. It's really I've been working on this art project that I'm I can't wait to show people.
Some of the nominated films include A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Anora, Challengers, and The Substance. Timothy Chalamet, Selena Gomez, Ariana Grande, Angelina Jolie are among the stars vying for acting honors. The ceremony is especially significant for India, as Payal Kapadia's All We Imagine as Light has received 2 nominations, including Best Director for Kapadia, marking the first nomination for an Indian production.
On our show, the nominees from television, from movies, come together. They're major stars, and it's like throwing a party at your home. Who would you like to have at your house if you could have anybody? And we've got them every year.
Winners of the Globes are chosen by 334 entertainment journalists from 85 countries. Winning a Globe can boost a film's chances in the run-up to the Academy Awards in March. Deeptanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
And let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world. Residents of Mandailing, Natal in Indonesia celebrated the annual durian season by enjoying freshly fallen fruit under trees. Known for its distinct taste, which doesn't really have a universal appeal, the local durian attracts both enthusiasts and fruit collectors. Jakarta used 8 tons of salt in weather modification operations, reducing rainfall intensity by up to 38%. The operations involved 10 flights and helped manage peak rainfall, ensuring minimal impact on the city. The East Flores government in Indonesia ended the emergency response for Lewatobi volcano eruption, shifting to recovery efforts. With the volcano's alert level downgraded from level 4 to level 3, focus now shifts to managing refugees building temporary housing and relocating residents from danger zones. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits newly constructed flats for slum dwellers in Delhi. Maldives Foreign Minister becomes the first FM to visit Delhi in 2025 to further the ties between the two nations. And India and Bangladesh agree to release each other's fishermen held after crossing into each other's maritime boundaries.
The delicate balance between human and animal coexistence has become a growing problem. Finding sustainable ways to coexisting together and thriving in a rapidly changing environment.
Tell them not to panic. Instead, they should just stand completely still and let the lions walk past peacefully. This is how we show respect to the animal and in turn gain its trust.
After the plantation of lemon trees, the elephants stopped entering the fields. They pass by the field boundaries without entering.
Poaching gangs and trafficking gangs that go after these elephants and capture them, things like that. And that's something that we are all up against.
We should try to modify the human behavior through education and awareness.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, another look at our top stories. South Korean investigators dropped their bid to arrest impeached President Yoon after a 6-hour standoff with his security team. First arguments in Yoon's impeachment trial to be held on the 14th of this month. The FBI says ISIS-inspired military vet acted alone in the New Orleans terror ramming. The Vega Cybertruck explosion perpetrator is identified as a highly trained Green Beret soldier who shot himself before the blast. And North India reels under a shroud of thick fog with zero morning visibility. The Met Department says the cold wave is likely to persist in and around Delhi for the next 2 days. India's President Draupadi Murmu is in Karnataka, where she participated in the Golden Jubilee celebrations of the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences in Bengaluru. The President inaugurated various facilities, including a new psychiatry block, central laboratory complex and hostel building to mark the occasion. Speaking on the occasion, President Murmu noted that NIMHANS today is an undisputed leader in mental health and neurosciences globally.
It is a milestone not only for this prestigious institute, but also for the nation. I congratulate the faculty members, administrators and students, past and present, on this occasion. Your dedication to the noble cause of mental health has helped NIMHANS play an exemplary role in our society. The innovative research and rigorous academic program with exceptional patient care has made it an undisputed leader in the field of mental health and neurosciences.
Now, in line with his commitment of housing for all, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday inaugurated 1,675 newly constructed flats for the families of economically weaker sections at the Swabhiman Apartments in Delhi's Ashok Vihar. Addressing the event, Prime Minister Modi hailed the day as a milestone for Delhi, with new projects in housing, infrastructure and education set to drive the city's progress. Earlier, Prime Minister Modi inspected the newly constructed flats for the slum dwellers. Among other key development projects inaugurated included the World Trade Center at Nauroji Nagar and the General Pool Residential Accommodation Type 2 quarters at Sarojini Nagar. The PM also inaugurated CBSE's integrated office complex in Dwarka, Delhi. It includes offices, auditorium, advanced data center, comprehensive water management system, among others. And the PM also laid the foundation stone for 3 new projects in Delhi University. These include a building of Veer Savarkar College in Roshanpura, Najafgarh, having state-of-the-art facilities for education. Maldives' Foreign Affairs Minister Abdullah Khalil is in New Delhi for a two-day official visit. Delegation-level talks were held between India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Maldivian counterpart Abdullah Khalil in New Delhi today. During his opening remarks, Dr. Jaishankar said that both the countries increased their engagements in various sectors. He reiterated that India always stood with Maldives and the country has facilitated the exports of essential commodities to Maldives.
Today's visit, Excellency, allows us to take stock of the progress since then. I think we have some important developments to report, positive developments to report. And certainly there is much more that we need to do. I see that the framework to promote the use of local currencies for cross-border transactions has been signed. We have increased our engagements in various sectors. And I do want to say that India has always stood by Maldives. For us, you are a very concrete expression of our neighborhood first policy.
It is an important year for the Maldives-India relations. We are celebrating 60 years of establishment of formal diplomatic relations. As a beneficiary of India's neighborhood first policy, the government of Maldives deeply values the significant importance India places in its relationship with the Maldives. On the development front, assistance from India has been transformative. The Greater Mali Connectivity Project is a shining example that is set to transform economic landscape of the Maldives. Honorable Minister, President Dr. Muiz looks forward to working closely with the government of India to strengthen the partnership even further.
Let's now get you more on this visit with DD India's Jessica Taneja joining us from the newsroom. Hello Jessica, the Maldives FM is visiting Delhi fairly close on the heels of the trip by President Muizu in October last year. What's been on the agenda?
Well, as you heard, both India's External Affairs Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar as well as Maldives Foreign Minister Abdul Khalil also point out that the relationship is moving in a positive direction. And of course, if you heard and take away from what the Maldives Foreign Minister said, that he and his country are in fact receiving the kind of assistance from India because of its neighborhood first policy, and with that assistance he also means nearly $800 million currency swap agreement, apart from the trading in local currencies across border, which Dr. S. Jaishankar just announced in that statement. There are additional realms to this relationship with Maldives as well. The last time you'd recall in 2024 in October, when Maldives President Mohammad Muizu had arrived in New Delhi, his first since his election. Then we saw the comprehensive economic maritime security partnership, and this was also part of the Maldives foreign minister this time. This is his first official visit, and this is the first official visit of any dignitary or foreign minister or foreign leader in the year 2025. With, of course, to Maldives extending support beyond just currency swaps, but also making sure that the economic needs are met with, and India continues to provide the assistance that has had in the recent past.
Yes, and Jessica, India-Maldives ties have seen some ups and downs in recent past, ever since President Muizu came to office. But do these visits mean that the relationship is now moving forward in a positive direction?
Well, it certainly is in a way, because when you would recall President Mohammad Muizu's campaign, when the election fever had gripped the nation, it was pretty much based on an anti-India campaign, so much so as leading to withdrawal of Indian military personnel from Maldives. And of course, later on, that issue also gradually resolved with both the countries holding talks and working towards a peaceful resolution. But with that, his first visit came to India, and prior to that, of course, he'd met with the Chinese premier as well. So there were tensions here and there, but with diplomatic engagement and before President Moizu's visit to India, Dr. S. Jaishankar had traveled to Maldives last year to sort of see where the relationship is going and, of course, do the task at hand. And we saw President Mohammad Moizu's then bilateral visit, and he was also present during Prime Minister's oath-taking ceremony while he began his third term as the Prime Minister. So, there have been moments where the relationships were strained, but the effort that has been put in both in the back channels and the front in terms of enhancing bilateral ties with Maldives, and of course making sure that its forex reserves are not depleting to a level where the country faces another economic downturn and tourism continues to thrive there. Energy projects also in the pipeline. All of these things combined, and India's overall assistance has been able to help Maldives at least put things back together, if not been in a tattered situation.
All right. Well, let's hope that further progress is made. Thanks a lot for joining us, Jessica Taneja. Now, India and Bangladesh have announced that they've agreed to release the fishermen in each other's custody after they crossed the border. According to the agreement, Bangladesh will hand over 95 Indian fishermen on the 5th of January, while India will release 90 Bangladeshi fishermen on the same day. In a statement, the Ministry of External Affairs said in recent months, several Indian fishermen have been arrested by Bangladesh authorities who inadvertently crossed the international maritime boundary line and entered the country's waters. Several Bangladesh fishermen have also been apprehended by Indian authorities under similar circumstances. The MES said the mutual exchange of fishermen and their vessels had been worked out, keeping in mind the humanitarian and livelihood concerns of fishing communities on both the sides. Indian Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav flagged off 3 new trains from Guwahati railway station on Friday. The trains include the Guwahati New Lakhimpur Jan Shatabdi Express, the new Bongaigaon Guwahati passenger train, and the Tinsukia Naharlagun Express. During his visit, the minister said that the government's goal is to connect every state, double railway capacity, build new bridges, and establish more stations. He also highlighted that the budget for railway development has significantly increased under Prime Minister Modi's leadership.
हर एक स्टेट को कनेक्ट करना है, डबलिंग करनी है, नए ब्रिजेस बनाने हैं, नए स्टेशन बनाने हैं। मोदी जी ने आके उसको डबल किया, 3 गुना किया, 4 गुना किया, और साथियों 2024-25 के बजट में 10,000 करोड़ रुपए नॉर्थ ईस्ट के रेलवे के डेवलपमेंट के लिए।
Now, severe cold weather conditions have been sweeping across northern and northeastern parts of India, with weather officials issuing dense fog alerts across regions. Airport operations are also being affected due to the dense fog. Let's take a look at this report.
Severe cold wave has engulfed North India as the Indian Meteorological Department has issued cold wave dense fog alerts across the region. According to IMD, dense fog conditions very likely to prevail during late night and early morning hours in isolated pockets of Himachal Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. Whereas, fog conditions will also exist in northeastern state of Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura till 6th of January. India's national capital New Delhi is also experiencing its coldest temperature in years as the city reported significant drop in temperatures, prompting opening of the shelters for the homeless and gatherings around bonfires as residents brace for the chill.
Cold wave conditions have gripped the northern part of India, with the national capital region of Delhi recording the lowest minimum temperature in the season of 2025. Trains have been affected due to the dense fog in the national capital region of Delhi and the NCR. The IMD says that such condition could prevail over the next 2 to 3 days given the western disturbance condition in the northern plains as well as in northern part of India.
Meanwhile, amidst the prevailing dense fog conditions and reduced visibility, Delhi airport authorities on Friday issued an advisory and stated that flights which were not Cat 3 compliant would get affected. Kashmir Valley is also experiencing record-breaking intense cold, with water bodies and the taps frozen. The Chilai Kalan period this year is proving to be much harsher.
The Kashmir Valley is in the grips of its 40-day period of intense chill and cold wave conditions called Chilai Kalan. So extreme is the chill that all major water bodies have frozen. Kashmir is already becoming a wintry wonderland.
Whereas Himachal Pradesh is set to witness fresh snowfall and rainfall.
Himachal Pradesh has entered new year with a clear sky, which has resulted in the significant rise in temperature. But the higher region of the state is still under the cold spell. And places like Tabo, which comes under the Lahaul Spiti and the Kinnaur regions, the temperature has fallen to minus 14 degrees Celsius, which has become a problem for the localites and the tourists who are visiting the state. According to the State Meteorological Department, they have issued a possibility of rainfall and snowfall till 7 January across the state. And in the lower regions of the state, a yellow alert of fog has been issued.
Other northern states of the country continued to face the harsh winter conditions as dense layer of fog also blanketed Rajasthan, Punjab and Uttar Pradesh. With Divyendu Mondal in New Delhi, Shabir Dar in Srinagar, Muskan Chaudhary in Himachal Pradesh, DD India.
And let me now take you across to two of my colleagues. Shabir Dar joins us from Srinagar, Jammu Kashmir, and Divyendu Mondal joins us from Delhi. First to you, Shabir, it seems like the extreme cold weather period called Chilai Kalan has come with a bang in the Kashmir Valley. How tough is the situation and how well are the people and the administration prepared to deal with it?
Yeah, this is after, I think for 50 years, when we have such a harsh winter in Kashmir. And as we know, Chilai Kalan is the harshest period of 40 days. And in this period, usually it characterizes by heavy chill and the freezing of, taps. The sub-zero temperature is eventually giving people a tough time. But administration is well prepared. People are being given advisories to follow. Plus, the administration has ensured that essential supplies reach to the people, particularly to the hilly areas. There is dip in the hydroelectricity generation, but nevertheless, administration is ensuring that people in Srinagar and in peripheries get power supply, and the frozen taps are, while there is scarcity, the water supply tankers are being supplied. So essentially, the administration is in the grip of the situation, and people are being given enough facilities to cope with this chilly winter.
All right, and Divyendu, if I could come to you, the sun managed to penetrate the thick fog over Delhi NCR around 11 a.m. today. But what did the zero visibility do to life in general earlier in the morning?
Well, Gautam, that's right. The sun has penetrated well through the fogs in Delhi, and the skies are much clearer at the moment. But of course, early morning fog as well as late night fog had been witnessed even yesterday, in fact last night and today early morning, disrupting flights as well as train movements across different parts of the country. Specifically, if we talk about the Indira Gandhi International Airport, approximately 100 flights have been affected since since late last night due to the dense fog. And of course, train movements have also been affected due to the dense fog. But however, such conditions have cleared since 11 in the morning, when the sun successfully could penetrate through the fog and much shine, giving its much shine in the Delhi NCR region. But of course, the IMD do say that such dense fog condition could prevail over the next couple of days in this particular region of the country, and also in the central as well as the northern part of the country, because of which the flights could further be affected as well as train movements could further be affected. And both the Delhi airport as well as the railways have cautioned travellers to check their trains as well as flights before leaving their home, and in fact to leave early and drive carefully on the roads during the early hours and late night. Gautam.
All right. Divyendu and Shabir, thank you so much for joining us with those updates. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the country as well. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar presided over the inauguration of the 27th International Congress of Vedanta at Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi on Friday. He said that Vedanta offers insights into the most sophisticated computer humans possess the human mind. India's Home Minister Amit Shah chaired the 7th meeting of the Islands Development Agency in Delhi on Friday. The meeting was attended by Andaman and Nicobar Lieutenant Governor Devendra Kumar Joshi, Lakshadweep Administrator Praful Patel and Union Home Secretary Govind Mohan. And India is paying homage to social reformer Savitribai Phule on her birth anniversary, honouring her contributions as a pioneer of women's empowerment and social reform in India. Known as the first female teacher of the country, Savitribai, along with her husband, Jyotiba Phule, worked tirelessly to combat caste and gender discrimination. Now, aiming to wear off the slow and lackluster start of 2025, Asian stocks rose on Friday as MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was 0.38% higher, with South Korean shares taking the lead. Elsewhere, China's stocks tried to rise after a dive on Thursday, with Chinese bonds sliding even lower, hinting at possible trade issues as the US gets a new leader. China's blue-chip CSI 300 index was 0.21% lower as Hong Kong's Hang Seng index rose 0.58%. Moving on to European stocks, Euro Stoxx 50 futures were 0.14% lower, while German DAX futures and FTSE futures changed a little. Again, US stocks closed broadly lower on Thursday after initial gains failed to hold, while the dollar, that's the US dollar, stayed steady near a two-year high of 109.14, showing a rise of 7% against a basket of currencies as investors worry about US rates staying higher for longer. The euro tumbled by 0.86% to a more than two-year low of 1.022475 USD, while the yen strengthened to 157.295 per USD, still near its 5-month low of 158.09 in December. The German economy has been shrinking for 2 years in a row, and that's worrisome as Germany used to be the economic engine of the continent. However, even in times of crisis, there seems to be some good news. Lars Halter is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin. Now, good afternoon from Delhi to you, Lars. Latest job numbers are looking pretty good. What more can you tell us about them?
Yes, that's correct. It might come as a bit of a surprise. After all, we've been dealing with a weak economy for a while, and yet these latest numbers, and those are the final numbers for 2024, tell us that 46.1 million people are currently working in jobs in Germany, and that is the highest number ever since the German reunification in 1990. It beats the previous year by 0.2% or by 72,000 people. And it continues a very strong trend. Every year since 2006, the German labor market grew, with the exception, of course, of 2020. That's the year of the pandemic. And that is a pretty strong performance. But, and here's the grain of salt in this report, the dynamic behind this job growth is weakening. The growth rate in the labor market was 1.4% in 22. 0.7% in 23, and now finally 0.2%, as I said. So it seems unlikely that we'll see further growth this year.
And which parts of the economy are seeing most growth, Lars, and which are the weak spots?
Yes, there's huge differences between different sectors of the economy, for sure. The strongest growth happened in the service sector, that grew by 0.4% or by 153,000 people. And within that sector, the public service sector was even stronger, growing by 1.5%. That is mostly jobs in education and health, but also administrative jobs. And, well, honestly, given that Germany is already plagued by lots of bureaucracy, I don't know if that's a good thing. Also, very strong pharmaceuticals, finance, and the aerospace industry. But then the weakest sector of the jobs economy are two real heavyweights, the industrial sector as well as construction, where jobs were lost last year, and further cuts are to be expected, especially in the steel sector, machinery, likely the auto sector. We've seen problems there for a while and they're not resolved.
Balsota, thank you for joining us from Berlin. Now, sports, and Australia bundled India out on a paltry 185 runs on day one of the Sydney Test. India's struggle against pace and seam continued as the visitors couldn't go past the 200-figure mark. Jasprit Bumrah led India, opted to bat on a green pitch and lost both their openers, KL Rahul and Yashasvi Jaiswal, inside the first 10 overs. And just when Shubman Gill started to find his rhythm, he gifted his wicket to Nathan Lyon on the score of 20. Virat Kohli then followed suit, throwing his wicket again to an off-stump ball. Jadeja and Pant did steady the innings but couldn't continue longer as both the batters departed post-tee. Pant, who looked good and patient throughout the innings, threw away his wicket after scoring 40 runs off 98 balls. Scott Boland, with 4 wickets, emerged as the pick of the bowlers on day one, while Mitchell Starc claimed 3 and Pat Cummins returned with 1 wicket. At stumps, Australia were at 9 runs for the loss of 1 wicket. That's the wicket loss of the last ball of the day. Well, Indian skipper Rohit Sharma opted out of the final test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy in Sydney, raising questions about his future in red ball cricket. The 37-year-old opener has endured a dismal series, scoring just 31 runs in 5 innings at an average of 6.2. Speculation about his future intensified when Rohit skipped India's pre-match press conference.
In a series of events that unfolded in the past few days, Indian regular skipper Rohit Sharma opted to sit out in the final test match of the Border Gavaskar series in Sydney, leaving a huge question mark on his red ball future. The 37-year-old opener has had a poor series, and the writing was on the wall when he failed to show up for India's eve of match press conference. Former Indian cricketers Sunil Gavaskar and Ravi Shastri feel that the Boxing Day test might have been Rohit Sharma's final appearance in Test cricket. Meanwhile, coach Gautam Gambhir on Thursday fronted the media and declined to throw his support behind him.
The thing is, everything is fine with Rohit, and I don't think so it's anything traditional. I think the head coach is there. That should be fine. That should be good enough. And we're going to have a look at the wicket and finalize it tomorrow.
Stand-in captain Jasprit Bumrah insisted at the coin toss on Friday that Rohit had opted to rest for the good of the team rather than being forced out. Rohit quit T20 international cricket last year after lifting the World Cup, but is yet to call time on his ODI career. As of now, Rohit's overall test statistics stand at 4,301 runs from 67 matches with an average of 40.57. A string of low scores in the crucial Border Gavaskar Trophy raised questions about his place in the side. Rohit has managed just 31 runs across 5 innings this series, scoring 3, 6, 10, 3 and 9 at a dismal average of 6.20, the lowest by a touring captain on Australian soil. His recent form comes on the back of a similarly poor return during India's 3-0 home series loss to New Zealand during October-November. Prior to his drop of form, Rohit gave India real firepower at the top of the innings, and his selfless approach allowed the rest of the batters to play freely. Sports Desk, DD India.
And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app right now. And we'll be